Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Westworld. We're, of course, looking at Season 4, Episode 2, Well Enough Alone. A nice, meaty episode in the fact of really giving us a lot of what is going on so we can really just start digging into more action and storyline next week. So, yeah, excited to jump into it. Want to, of course, give my welcome to my co-host for the eve. You see him on here all the time, and we never miss him. We always love him here. Rob Stone. Did I get that out right? My brain's not working. I'm running late today, folks. So I ran into the studio and hit buttons and go. So excuse me while my brain catches up with the rest of my body.
No, it's just weird hearing my name. Like my full name. Robert is already too formal. So anybody who says Robert, but anytime Stone gets at it, it's like, what? Who? Me? Oh my God, I'm on a video.
Well, and I've done it a few times because sometimes it feels weird when I'm just and it's Rob. I don't know. Maybe that's the best way to introduce.
No. It's fine. It's my weird thing of hearing my own name out loud. It's whatever.
Yeah. We're
talking about how weird this. We're talking about a show that's about identity and all this, so it tracks. My weirdness about hearing my own name and not feeling is that even feeling kind of, I don't know. It's a Westworld kind of feel like it.
Does it feel right with the narrative you're following? All right. Well, yeah, let's just kind of dive in. And I want to find out kind of where you're coming in from this episode, because last week, it was kind of a one-on-one with me and the audience here, kind of diving into a lot of the bigger questions and so on. And so now that we've kind of had that first episode introduction, we've been able to sort of now move into, I think, a little bit more of meat in story. How are you feeling about this season of Westworld and the journey it's taken you on?
I think they've done a really good job, to me, of natural progression, but it was a little jarring. Every season's kind of jarring after one, where they put you anyway. Two, I thought was going to be one way, and it's completely not. And three, it's, we're out of the park, we're in the world, and we're continuing that here. But I still felt like it was a really good, no matter where they drop you, it feels like the best natural progression. I do think that this season, missing 7 or 8 years, is a lot, especially how it ended. I don't think we necessarily needed to see the war or anything, but I definitely want to give Mark over at Enchantment of Eternity props for mentioning that the whole some of the relationships you don't get to see any of that, how with Caleb and Maeve, how close they are, all of a sudden it's just they meet once and now they're old buddies,
right? And so their history is kind of not there for you yet.
Yeah, so other than little things like that, I'm happy with where it is. And I mean, just because Dolores, the good Dolores, sacrifices herself at the end of last season, Evan Rachel Wood's not, gonna be back, because I mean they made that huge deal financially with her and Tandy Newton getting huge paychecks for this show. So they were gonna figure out how to work it back in, and it's here. And I mean, that's the storyline, right? That I feel like they really have it on a track to make us think one way. I hope it's something different and surprising. But that's kind of the weakest part of the story right now. But I'm still here for it. Caleb in this season so far, I'm gonna say it kind of as a whole. I've never been very invested in Caleb.
Oh, really?
And anybody who knows me knows I love Breaking Bad. No.
Well, no, that's what I was gonna say. I'm you were there, and Paula doesn't automatically just get you invested.
That's the thing. Yeah, it was here's Aaron Paul, and it's not his fault that I don't find the character that interesting.
Right.
He's doing his job, but he's just been Guy. He's just a guy, like Sam Rockwell in Galaxy Quest. He's just Guy, and anybody could have played him, and it's Aaron Paul.
Sure.
And so there's the Aaron Paul element that's good, but I just don't feel like his character for me I've never really piqued my interest at pretty much at all.
Well,
Um,
he's got a lot to compete with. I mean, as you mentioned, you've got, Dolores and Maeve. You've got Tandy Newton and Evan Rachel Wood, who are just powerhouses in this series,
well,
as it
also
were.
Tessa Thompson and even like Angela Serafin, who's been all over this show as Clementine. You
Oh,
got
yeah, who we'll
and Ed
definitely talk
Harris.
about. Well, that's it. We've had time to dwell with
Yeah.
so many of these other characters. So in a way, I mean, Caleb is, especially as a human, you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow, man, you're kind of lesser than everyone else. You don't have much backstory and everything. And I
He's-
loved him last season, and I appreciate where he's going here, mainly because of what he can bring to it, and the fact that I feel at this point you've got to have, the bots and the humans working
Yeah.
together, host and human together in order to really make that next new world. So I understand the part that why he needs to be here.
Yes.
But yeah, when you've got so many other people that just pop back up, you're like, oh yeah, so and so. I mean, Lawrence popped up at the end of last season for one tiny scene, and I was like, oh man, what else
Right.
are we gonna see him in? So yeah, he does have kind of that to go up against.
Yeah, and it's nothing against him. It's just you need the human character, and he's just a guy. Everybody else is way more than what they seem to be, and he's pretty much just what he seems to be. And I think maybe he's the touchstone for the audience.
Sure.
The one human that they know. Although, do we know now? I don't know.
Well, we
Like,
will get into a little bit of that. Let's start off with Dolores, because, well, Christine, I guess will as her character name is here, because her story is really the most standalone that we have so far. There's nothing that really seems to connect it with anything else, and I think that is done intentionally. I mean, like you mentioned, what is the twist that Westworld's going to do in this season? They've always been really good at playing with what is reality, what is now, what is time, what is happening, and I think Christine's timeline is the most separated because of whatever the structure of where she is now, whatever that might be. This episode pretty much is just kind of like chasing down leads. We basically just get the Peter Mays story, the fact that her boss is certainly tracking where she's going, the fact that this story is, wow, even down to the name, exactly this guy's story, who of course was complaining with her that, why are you doing this to us? And then at the end, we end up getting a weird kind of, when did this happen? Because whatever group, the Hope Home for the mental health, has long been gone, and this Peter Mays wing that was donated was years ago. So what have you been getting off of Dolores's story here? Where do you think this is going with this? What is her connection in with these stories, these lines, these background people?
I mean, on the surface, it just appears like the first word that comes to my mind, though,
Right.
and you'll appreciate this, is framework.
Yeah. Yeah.
This all feels like the framework. And I mean that. Like, if you really look at how things are and her finding things, a mystery to try to figure out who you are, certain people set up that are in their program to tell you what you want to hear, be the foil, all these little beats that we've seen already on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, like, You know, they could be like, nobody watched that, so we could get away with this plot line. You know, like, oh wait, suddenly everybody watched it, and some people might actually notice. Oh,
No.
But she's the good. It just seems really obvious, and like I said, I hope it's not as obvious as it appears. But I mean, it just feels like she's just on her journey to find who she really is. You know, and with Teddy in the background of the first episode, you know, like it's just they're really laying it out there, and we can go down all these rabbit holes that we go down. But one of the things we've noticed is as many rabbit holes we go down, so many times they actually just give us what we're being presented with.
Very true.
So I'm hoping for something different, but I'm prepared for what's in front of me. And if this is the final season, which it kind of feels like it is,
I do believe this is the final season. Yeah.
Maybe this is trying to set up for this kind of sweet ending for this character who can show up in the 11th hour to be the thing that everybody needs to be happy.
Sure.
But I don't think that this show is going to end necessarily with, you know, an unhappy ending, but I also don't think it's going to be like the end of the Planet of the Apes either. Where it's like, oh no, you know, like, so I think we'll get something in between that's just going to be weird enough.
Well, how
she got there, why she's there. Those are the things that we don't know. And again, I think missing 7 years and all that stuff, that's where they can get us in these mystery spirals and these mazes in our head to like figure it out.
Sure. Well, yes, this could be something as simple as what are the ideas I was tossing out last week is this is another copy or perhaps the original reprogrammed Dolores of the minis that she had sent out there, re-released into the world on her thing, like I'm gonna go sacrifice myself, take over home, and here's a me that has no memory of a host to get a chance to go live a life. And this is just her living her life and running into some corner of adventure within it. If that's the case, do you have any idea on why or how her stories are being used to influence other people's lives?
I don't know.
Okay. No.
I don't, because it's maybe 8 o'clock in the morning me would know, but after 9 o'clock in the evening after a long day of work and rewatching it, like this could have been like, I guess, a last ditch effort of the system to.
Yeah. Well, because the other thing is, you know, in my ideas, if this is a Matrix type, you know, kind of artificial virtual world a la framework, is she a prisoner or is she just a free program within it? And if so, my question is, and again, we don't have to go anywhere, but these are one of the fun questions that bounce around in my mind as I watch this is, why would you hold on to, if you are Charlotte, if you're Delos, if you're any of those, if you've got one of the captured copies from was it Musashi when he got his head cut off, or the one that was blown up in Connolly and recovered, if you have a Dolores, why would you use them? Why would she be involved in working and building background characters? To me, this is the interesting questions on that. If you're like, is she a freeverse who's just run into this thing that is using writers for this other purpose? Or is she trapped inside a virtual world of Delos's creation or something like this?
Yeah, why keep her around?
Why keep her around? And
that's a really good question.
Yeah. And that's kind of the big question that I'm having, because I do feel that this is not a real world place.
No, absolutely.
but it's definitely expansive enough that you can go from New York to Jersey and have all of these, real virtual kind of worlds and stuff. And so if you are building your computer program and you're using resources to script your non-player characters and stuff, I totally get that. Why use an AI unless they don't know she's an AI and she's just, I don't know, pulled into this in some subconscious way to try and sort through whatever nefarious Delos planning is?
But with Teddy jumping in there at the end, it feels like there's a plan.
Right. That's the kind of interesting.
We're not in on it at all.
Yeah.
And they're not giving anything up other than tossing us lots of cliches.
Yes.
Which again feels intentional.
Yeah. There is often a lot of redirect in this, and in many ways I don't mind that because the storytelling is still beautiful. The effects are great. They do toss these little clues. I mean, very much the fact that just how the crowds move seem very robotic. All the dress is black and white with some gray in there. There's no real color in anybody's dress out in the world. There's no real distinction of lives that you see on anybody outside of like the bum or Christine's roommate and stuff. Everybody seems very just filling in space in the background.
And to keep her on rails,
right? Very much so.
That friend is so obviously somebody that would be like on the Truman Show, like the.
Don't worry, everything's fine. We should go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like all you need is like ad something that like some sort of ad happening. Exactly But and the boss, the way the boss is like like who I'm gonna call not Josh Holloway.
Yeah.
Because he was totally doing it. I felt like it was Josh Holloway impression right there. I'm sorry. Nothing against that actor.
No.
But I just to bring up the bum that died, Peter. I just wanted to bring up that's Aaron Stanford, the original Pyro from the X-Men movies.
Yes.
I had to let my nerd out there, and also that he did the new 12 Monkeys series. But yeah, the original Pyro, I thought that was pretty cool. But I would have to say that like wherever it's going, it with her, a big piece of that puzzle has to be where she ended up. Right. At this place. Why is this place important? If this place closed down and he's got a wing, and there's those blueprints, obviously, like none of like the fact that she wouldn't question her reality, but she's in a place that's closed down, but blueprints are right there. Like it's just
being built over. Yeah. Is this old? Are we using old storylines? Is this new? When is it going on? Yeah, they definitely keeps the questions going. Even so much as, does she direct the people to leave the room when she say leave, or was she talking to herself like she should go, and then she was able to look around because they left?
And how long is Christine aware of time and memory? Because to her, it seems like this has been going on. This is just her life. It's been going. But this feels like more like this is really new, and she just doesn't know it.
Right.
And whatever she's being pointed towards, I think maybe it's to ease her, maybe to ease her into remembering who she is, so it's not so traumatic. But she has to first learn about the park in this way, or
right.
who she is in this way, that they are being controlled, and she's getting the stories part, like that she's part of creating all these worlds for these people around them, because a lot of this, I guess, also has to do with control,
right,
on the show, and her finding out that she's being controlled in this. And I'm trying to hold off my expectations on it all. Like I said, I'm trying to be like, if it's standard stuff, fine. If it turns out that the old AI Rehoboam put her in some little corner of the internet and I don't know, some app that somebody's working on,
Sure.
or whatever. She could, wherever she is, um, we could have a big plot like that. But I don't know. It still feels pretty like it's just gonna.
Well, I think it's doing a nice job of setting her to start to question her reality, before you get a Teddy to show up. Because, yeah, if there is something that's, like you said, trying to help wake her up or steering in that direction, you definitely want to do that in stages and not just be like, hey, by the way, you're fake, the world's fake, all of this is, yeah. Heard of Westworld?
Yeah.
It would be a little shocking. But I think some of this may end up playing with the scripting and storyline into what Caleb and Maeve first run into as their opening bit to meet Senator HRG, who, of course, I always
Right.
call from
Again, we have
Heroes.
people over this.
I love the casting they do with this.
Yeah.
The cheerleader's dad from Heroes, folks,
Jack
way back
Coleman.
when. Yeah, doing a great job. I love seeing him in this. And again, and I love that this was not something that was drawn out at all. We went straight to, boom, this is their plan. We're going to replace people. We're going to replace them with hosts. We got all the data. We've been talking about all this data and personality stuff. Obviously, Man in Black is walking around. William Bot's there. So now we can do it. And how many we got? 249. Great. We even get a number too. Thanks, Maeve. Yeah, and this is the downside of having Caleb, because Caleb has to do like the ridiculously drawn out side of the fight, while Maeve gets to do the super kick-ass, host versus host takedowns. Yeah, what are you gonna do, man? You got Thor and you got Rocket Raccoon. Okay, who's gonna be taking on who at this stage? But I love this kind of idea of. I think one of the themes when I was watching some of the post episode stuff with Lisa Joy is talking about, one of the themes here is turnabout is fair play. As the show originally opened up, we have humans controlling hosts and then using that information in order to get information and knowledge on other humans. And now it's being turned around. So hosts are using that same knowledge in order to control and replace humans or be able to reprogram them. And there is just sort of a beautiful duality to that plan. And again, I just love the idea that this is how you get what you want. If you can't buy people, replace them. And if they're relatively disposable, find a way to program those humans to do what you want. And evil Dolores, aka Charlotte Hale, man, God, I love Tessa Thompson. She is so awesome and dedicated with everything she does. And just her walking in, she's just like, oh no, don't kill her. She could be useful. Put her with the rest of the livestock. I mean, just to the pause of saying that, you get all of the feel of how she has such disdain for these human beings. And I just love the dark evilness of this.
Yeah.
And beautiful shots of dead horses. Just put down the horse or the horse model and throw some blood around there, have some flies around, boom. Nasty. Totally nasty. So yeah, the hosts are going to replace us humans. What you think of all of that?
This is like this dark stuff right here, and I'm really loving when they go this dark, because it's it just proves I'm not desensitized yet, because this is like. Also, let's just say that every time William shows up anywhere, someone's going to die. Right? This is the real thing. Like, there's no hope for any. Like, there's so little hope in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
This is just this person, nope, they're dead now. This person dead now. This person wishes they were dead now. It's not looking good. It's episode 2, and it is not looking good for anyone. But this scene in particular, you get Jack Coleman and Saffron Burrows, who I mistakenly thought was Connie Nielsen. Saffron Burrows, Deep Blue Sea.
Right. Yes. Thank you. I see these people and I'm like, where do I know them from?
You get them, they're seasoned actors and they have to just be victims and robots at the same time. And I love like William just knowing that there's a little bit lack of tension because you know something bad is about to happen. You just don't know how it's going to happen. And they just are so creative of the way that they come in and just have these robots just coolly walk in. And yeah, I think I started this way back when we talked about robots. With like season 4 stuff when we were talking about AOS and live model decoys. And I refuse. They're robots. I don't care. I don't care what they look like. They're robots. They're mechanical. They're robots. Anyway, but how coolly they just walk in and stab and shoot and kill. And it's just these people, while they're politicians and, you know, most of us don't trust politicians, they're still people. And they just woke up one day and didn't know that they were about to have at least Coleman got shot in the head and it was over. Poor Saffron Burrows her character gets stabbed and then the flies infect her brain and she's killing all the horses. That is such a creepy scene. And I love it because it just proves I can still be creeped out. I can still be like shocked at the level of like something that I can watch on TV. But it was just so like what Maeve says, you know, this is the real her. And she was a human, but I don't know what she is now. And that whole thing of the flies taking over people, and and basically their black blood coming out and everything. All of this is just. I want to say that the fly thing is a little out of nowhere starting this season. Like we've seen the flies, but they've just been kind of like the metaphor for I wouldn't hurt a fly and that kind of thing.
Right.
I do feel like that whole element of the flies is a bit like, where the hell did this come from? Okay, fine. I feel like there was no real lead up to this threat. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't watch enough of season 3 to see it coming. But that's it's just a nitpick. But it just flies are awful, and so it's just such an adds that extra. Like I'm at work today and there was just this one fly who just wouldn't. And I felt like I was Walter White in the lab and one fly just drove me crazy. So like flies just do it for me, like in the creep factor. And if you ever have to go out to a dumpster in a hot day like today, flies, it's nightmare fuel.
I think, you know, I haven't seen anything where they've talked about it yet, at least, but I think they are kind of building with that. You did have that early kind of symbolism with the fly and so on, but no, it wasn't really done anything else. But also those seasons were all pretty much chronologically boom, boom, boom. Season 2 was right after season 1. Season 3 was just a couple of months after season 2. This is 7 years. So I think they were like, if we want to do this, what would be the creepiest way to do it? You know, and in some ways, I think that's probably, I'm sure there is symbolism that Charlotte, you know, came up with in the idea of like, you know, where flies are there when you die and you're basic, you know, so now they're bringing you back to life and death. You know, I'm sure there's some real dark nastiness associated with it. But no, that wasn't built up from anywhere. I think that's just a brand new bit of horror they wanted to come up to mess with us this season.
Yeah, and Charlotte being the bad Dolores, if you want to call her the one who wants, you know, to take us all. I think it's just so fitting that Hale in life was the villain.
Yeah,
but like but you know, there was that other side of her with the family and everything, and like. But to still see her like after everything being used as a villain again, like, and again, like you said, she's so great in this. We don't get enough of her. They're trying to balance all these three storylines, and it's hard to choose like when between Maeve and Hale. It's really good. Like we've talked about, Christina's is still kind of this disconnected story to the rest of it, but I want to see Hale and Maeve like.
Oh yeah.
Or again, I say Hale, but it's Dolores, but it's like it'll be round two.
Well, it's a new. I mean, in some way, that's interesting. I mean, Dolores died saying, "Yeah, there's all this darkness. I choose to see the beauty." Whereas, Dark Dolores, the Hale, is one that had that opportunity, lost it, and chose to see only the darkness and loss out of it. So in some ways, they really kind of are the polar opposites from singular choices.
So that's that's something right there. So you've got Maeve on one side, right, and you've got bad Dolores and Hale, and then you have Christina, right, and it feels like it just feels like it's setting up to have something come in where I don't know, maybe even Dolores having to be Maeve.
Mm-hmm.
Or I feel like it's going to come up where however she returns, it's going to have to be something's whatever character she comes back in, whatever body she's in, it's going to play, I think, a big part of like the final person to face off against Hale's ruthlessness.
Sure.
Maybe part of this is for Christina to really think about like everything that's opposite of like what bad Dolores is thinking.
Sure.
That she's got to see how bad things were and see all the ugliness of it all, and still somehow remember why the one way isn't the right answer that Hale's trying to do. I don't know.
Sure. Well, I mean, there is kind of in her, she wants to just write the happy love stories of of longing and finding meaning and living a happy life, and actively fights against writing those negative. So in some ways, she is kind of that pure essence of what Dolores would be, of that hopeful one. So yeah, it does make sense that ultimately that would have to be, cocooned and rebirthed to go up head to head with, her dark nemesis, by the end. I like where that's going. Well, okay, so we've got our evil plan. Replace people that you need to. But of course, they're still pulling back. We've got Charlotte's been using the what we find out to be the replaced William, still keeping old William around, which is nice, just to torture. Again, that darkness with Hale. But also,
well, that's the Dolores who's been killed by William a million times, and is like, it was a very way she put it. There's somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. You're here to watch watch it all. You're just here to witness the loss. Mm-hmm. You're here to be. I need to know that I beat you. You need to know that I beat you, and then whatever happens. Because for him, watching and then having to watch himself,
Oh, yeah.
And
what was his mission? I'm going to kill them all. No, you're going to wait and be used to kill all the humans. Ha ha.
And that is, and Ed Harris's character is the one that has to be the most like, you can't just make Ed Harris a robot. No. They did, but they would. There's no way you can kill the original William without some. Because here's the thing, she puts him away, and you don't leave your enemies alive. You don't so what's coming. He's getting out.
Right.
Of that. He's not going to will him. William is not going to will himself out of it, but somebody's going to get him out. And what if that'd be crazy if I don't know. I almost went down a real bad rabbit hole, but
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they're setting these
He's
things up
going to
because you're
take
right.
out Hale. He's going to take out bad Dolores, I think. But I don't know. Like, there's so many. Can I just say again? Also, Ed Harris just keeps getting better. The more fun, like all the different personalities of himself that are running around, played by different people, and all of them are great. And he just still oozes menace as old as he's getting. Just sitting in Clementine's house in the
Oh
dark,
yes.
just so freaking and that gun, like just pulling up that gun and like, yeah, we've seen him shoot people and hurt people like 100 times over, but they still find ways to put him in a scene that just scares the shit out of you because you're just scared for the other person.
Oh no, he
He's
is
definitely
awesome
the
to see.
Homelander of this show.
And he is being allowed to have, I think, such great breadth, being both, evil William host and trapped human William. And I love the repeat of the vitriol man phrase that they used to build the hosts with. That's the same thing he's being trapped in. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
the irony and symmetry and visuals in this really beautifully done. The fact that Clementine comes back, I loved. Oh, I love that opening scene. I was bummed. I was like, no, you can't bring her back for one scene and then kill her. But now she gets to be the evil assistant. She's she's the third level Sith, serving the Sith assistant to the Emperor. That's we've got this whole thing. She's playing Ventress
She's
now.
got to get some comeuppance to somebody, man. There's got to be a personality that somebody just wakes her up, man. Like clicks a. I hate to be, I know she's more sophisticated than that, but somebody takes a garage door opener to her and clicks the right setting, and she turns to where she needs to be because that actress deserves like a stunning ending.
Yeah,
To her
by
arc.
far.
And because she's just been kind of this unsung hero in the background, a pawn in everybody else's games, but they keep using her. They keep bringing her around. Why? Again, everybody's going to get something. But yeah, like, yeah, when she's sitting there talking about the Secret Service being obvious and all that, and
little head tilt.
getting the Justice Department guy in there and asking him about appointments.
Let me cut you down. Let me just whittle you down a little bit there.
And again, I mean, I honestly can't believe that they even let the Justice Department guy live. And I mean, we're kind of getting to it, but the whole scene with the vice president was like, okay, look, that was stupid. Because it was like, do I really believe, I'm sorry, but this was where I was like, do I really believe that the vice president would just go there with like a couple of guys and have no backup at all because he just wanted to have a friendly, like, I'm supposed to like think that the vice president could tell everybody to F off enough. I just don't think I don't know. But it was all in service of getting the vice president. So it was just like, I don't know. Why not just show Ed Harris and Angela Serafin take on a whole bunch of guys to get the vice president, like the vice president almost makes it out, but can't, like I want to see him take down, like drones and shit. I don't care. But, so it just kind of felt a little like it was too.
That's a third act scene. You know it. That's, but I agree. Yes. But when you can have Ed Harris just staring someone down and talking shit at them, it's like,
Yeah.
You don't need him to beat him up. He's doing it already. Just looking at him and setting up 3 in a row hole-in-ones as just the little hit points, the little tabs through his discussion back and forth of like, you have made a total horrible error. I thought it was just a beautiful little just F you.
Yeah, I know. It just felt like I agree with all of that.
Sure.
I just felt like the setup just didn't seem believable to me. But people are stupid. I get, people are stupid. So there is that tracks too. So it happened. There's no rewind button on production. So
Sure.
however, and it was good good to see the guy that played the vice president back from The Expanse. Like I know Mark mentioned that. Bull from The Expanse.
Yeah, Bull. Yeah, no. I loved
He's
seeing
been in a ton of stuff though. That guy's everywhere. So it's good to see all these people getting a chance to shine. But after the second hole in one, you probably go, yeah, I need to get out of here. This guy's a robot.
Just
Like
slowly start backing towards the yeah. Should have brought more people. Yeah, I guess the excuse there would be that since the vice president came to him, that would make a little bit more sense opposed to going. If he was trying to go to him, then there'd definitely be tons of Secret Service and stuff. So yeah, the chat's got a lot of agreement in you that the vice president would not be traveling quite as light security wise. Do you want to take a moment to say hello to our awesome chat going on here? Silver Surfer here as well. Envy, Warren, Stinger B Company bringing in all the conversation. Stinger B, you bring up an interesting point. Ridiculous that a future society, no one knows that these beings aren't human. I mean, any bioscan should alert everyone around that this thing has a datasphere instead of a brain. Good point. They may have upped their host designs. Also, with the death of Rehoboam, they seem to have implied that there's no more real bots and stuff around. So it could just be we've fallen into complacency. Why would we have bioscans around? Yeah. Why would we have these things around? Obviously, yeah, with Christine, if she's a human, then we just have odd questions for that. If she is a host in the world, we have to make some assumptions that she's never been wounded, or if somebody knows that she has a particular doctor that would be able to do that. Otherwise, if she's living in a digital world, none of that would matter because everybody is digital. If this is some sort of, framework virtual world. So you're right, that is, but I think the idea is like everybody's just going to assume that you're human unless they need to check otherwise. Like say our assistant deputy or deputy assistant, I can't remember which order that went in, from the Justice Department, who I think did suspect, with the conversation with Hale, there seems to imply that he was suspecting like you are replacing people with hosts. I will stop you. And this is while you're up into your seat.
Again, it's like these, I guess we're just supposed to believe that they're just so woefully unprepared and the hubris of just one guy. Like there's just one guy with this idea and the rest of the world has no clue. And I don't know. Some of it's just really conveniently small scale.
Sure.
For what feels like should be bigger things. Like he's like the the one guy that's still trying to tout a conspiracy theory. Then all the rest of them are like, you gotta let it go. You gotta move on. You got a lot of open cases here, and you're still dealing with this. You got 12, like all this stuff. You gotta, like one more step out of line, and you got a suspension. Like
now he's gonna go back to work and start carving up the horses. Which again seems to be Charlotte's idea is if we can't replace you, then we need to find some way to control you so that my people can be safe. This is all about her bringing in, whether it's either completely replacing humanity, getting rid of them, or just making them like programmable cattle. Which again is the fun turnabout here is she's basically doing to the humans what they did to the hosts in order to live her life, which makes me curious who the population of the Golden Age is. So yeah, we get our fun, I think a beautifully done recreation of episode 2 from season 1 when William discovers the secret entrance into the train that brings them to Westworld. We get a great suckering in, and I did not suspect this all the way up until the train took off. that this is exactly what they did to us again. And goddamn credit to them for
Yeah.
pulling that off so beautifully. I think because the tension, you're expecting a trap. I think that was kind of a perfect mental redirect there. But yeah, we got a new park. Beautifully set, I have to say. Post-pandemic, okay, we haven't had post-World War here, but we're definitely entering an era of I don't know, vast inequality in cash, super rich and super poor, all about to lead to a massive depression. Hey, look, all I'm saying is that setting this all up exactly 100 years ago in the roaring 20s is making a very poignant conversation on our society. And I am totally for that.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that train said Chicago on the side of it.
Yeah.
So, Roaring 20s in the Chicago area. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah, we get our gangsters, we get our Capone, you get your hard-boiled detectives.
I'm wondering like how much of this is gonna. It looks pretty setty. I wonder if they. I don't know if they filmed any of this in Chicago. I know the Nolans are not unfamiliar with Chicago from filming the Dark Knight movies there. But if they don't, it's fine. But what I want to know is why is William doing this?
Yes.
What is this trap? Because feels like a big old trap. And I don't necessarily mean for Caleb and Maeve. Like why did he pick the Golden Age? Like, well, it's not him, right? It's Hale.
William Bot. Yeah, it's Hale.
So what is Hale's again goal to the Golden Age?
Okay.
And what is there significance about that time period that she wanted this last park to be like this? Or is it just because they're just like, oh, the writers just want to do something fun, so we'll put it in the gangster era? But
yeah, honestly, the wins for Hale doesn't seem to be as big a question. At least it didn't pop out in my mind, as opposed to the where and, like you said, the how is this all going on? Because this is all done very purposely in the United States. This is Las Vegas, I believe, that they have taken over and redone. Set-wise, this was actually the same set they used for Sweetwater. For the town in Westworld, they've just redecorated and redone and put up some blue screen and stuff and everything, which is kind of a cool. Obviously we're stepping back into things. We've got the train too, back to Sweetwater. Yeah, there's a lot of very cool overlay done with that. But this is also close to the Hoover Dam, which is where we do believe that the Sublime is. And if you want to have your digital world and records and data set in stone, this would be the way to do it, especially if perhaps, again, much like the original Delos parks, a lot of this is to gather data on the people who come. So are they just building that up? Is this just we're getting more data so we can replace more people?
Making it more, I would say you'd have to make it more affordable.
Sure.
Like, you can't just have the super rich show up.
But perhaps you could also use a lot of people for backgrounds. And if they get shot, who cares? If you could program them and bring them in. I mean, why would Dolores want to let humans loose shooting other hosts if she's trying to find a safe place for her people? Perhaps they could just come and shoot other humans that have been programmed to run the park.
Stinger brings it up that the theme of all the parks being lawlessness. So it's appropriate. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a free, all those movies. We say movies. I say movies and I forget it. It actually happened. I live in Illinois and the blood's hitting the floor every day here. But back then, yeah, I mean, indiscriminate violence everywhere. So yeah, it would probably be like oh wow, maybe they're just planning on one giant slaughter. It's like, and I'm here for that too. However they choose to go about it, I'm here for it.
Sure. And and it would be interesting then if the programming that Dolores is doing is the trial runs of what's going to end up being used on people or the flies or the background there, and that ends up being how we have our little connection coming in. Again, it's going to depend really on what world is Dolores really living in,
Yeah.
to find that out.
Unless the stories are working on like an algorithm, and she's just a part of that algorithm. She's just placed in there.
Ooh, that would be interesting. If she is like the Dolores of the algorithm, the one that starts becoming conscious within. There would be an interesting overlay and repeat on that one. I kind of like that idea.
I mean, it sounds smart, but it's not as smart. It's not as smart as it. So it's just right. That's where it's like it hits that right there where some people will think that might think that's really smart, but it's really just it's okay. It's like Inception, right? It's one of those movies that wants you to see how smart it is, when really, if you really think about it, it's all right.
Yeah.
And I think that what I just said was it is an all right idea. It's an out there all right idea. I'm definitely reaching, but it's something. I'm trying really hard.
Well, I mean, but in some ways, it does also come full circle with the original Crichton movies back in the 70s.
Sure.
Westworld set up, and then its sequel, Future World,
Absolutely.
which was about replacing world leaders with hosts, which I think has been the nice kind of transition was, oh, that's the secret of what Westworld was for, and now we're actually doing it as we wrap everything up. So, I mean, it does give a nice sort of full circle to that. Now, my question is, did William or Charlotte invite purposely Caleb and Hale if they went and discovered their people? Or were they that was just interior, as the flies are eating her brain, kind of working up like, oh, we were supposed to go to the opera. I mean, the two people were going to the opera, the senator's wife were dressing to go to the opera right at that point. So, because it seemed like they were invited, but it's also like your brain is goo. What are you thinking? Because there isn't a trap for them. They definitely didn't come up to see like William going, "Ha ha, suckers! Now I've captured." Just curious.
Yeah, but I feel like it's still going to end up there. You know what I mean? Like right now, it doesn't look like it, but it just feels like there's going to be the, right. Like, oh, like, how did you know? Like, did you not think that we wouldn't know? Like,
Sure.
But maybe that's just me being the guy who's seen too many things that we predict all the things and the beats that happen in other shows and movies of this sort, where this is where that happens and this is where that happens.
As the chat can attest, we do tend to over theorize and over, project of the possibilities of things here. So, but that's okay because we're playing with ideas. Where do we think that they're going? And I like the fact that they are really moving this along. The fact that we did get so many answers in episode 2, so we don't have to like, why is this happening? We know why it's happening. We're getting everyone's goals pretty straightforward. Now we just have to see how these pieces are going to come together, which is why I'm really excited by next week. It looks like we get, our Ultra Cop duo, Bernard and Stubbs, back together, who I'm really looking forward to.
When you don't got Stephen Wright in your episodes, when you don't have Bernard in here, I mean, it's a little bit off. You need to have all those, but the plots are so, for each person, have gotten pretty big that it's just become necessary to divide it up like this. But I'm super excited to see where they're going.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I think that kind of covers everything. Again, not really. Figure there's not really too much to discuss about the actual episode. It was all very straightforward. Again, it was great seeing Clementine again. It was like seeing HRG. I always love the little cast members that they do pull in on this. We did get a little kind of inkling of the island, a little time between Maeve and Caleb, which I'm just going to assume is going to be slowly fleshed out of what actually happened. Did he get injured? Was she did he leave her to? Did she leave him to get fixed, and then she went off and finished things out, or was that Honestly, I don't really care. That's one of those things where I'm like, look, I'm just going to buy that there was a thing and a stuff, and maybe it wasn't the best, but like you said, war is hell. These things happen. I do love Maeve giving us the line of, "Oh, things are actually much worse than I thought."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when she saw that through what happened to the senator, it's like, yeah, no, this is bad. This is real bad.
Yes. And that we still get the same greeter on the train, Sophia, who's been in the park forever, which I just love as a nice consistency.
Literally doing this exact same thing, pretty much beat for beat, that was in the very first episode.
And hi, can I sleep with you while you change or no? Do you want that? No? Okay. It's okay. You guys aren't subtle. You definitely haven't worked on the subtle programming here at all. You always know you ask the wife first. Okay. But yeah, I'm excited to see. I like the choice of Golden Age. I like the fact that we've getting some story going along, and that they're moving things pretty quickly. Because yeah, if this is the final season, which I believe that it is, we want to end it on big notes. We want to have a reason to really wrap up this story in a big way, and I'm looking forward to them subverting our expectations. For the most part, they've done a good job of doing that throughout the show and keeping us guessing on a lot of things, especially people's motivations and drives. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that gets twisted as we go a little bit more forward. Any final thoughts that you have on here, Rob, before we wrap things up?
No, I think we've done a pretty good job.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everybody again for joining us in the chat. Envy Warring, Stinger B Company, Silva Surfer was in here as well. I don't want to miss anybody. Thanks everybody who is joining us in the archives. If you, of course, you enjoy this, we are legally obligated by YouTube to ask you to like and subscribe and hit those notifications so you can be notified whenever we have new reviews dropped. We'll be back here next week, Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to continue our weekly Westworld reviews. And as we have more answers, we'll fill those in. As we have more room for speculation, we will speculate like mad as well, because that is what we do here. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll catch you next week. You have a good evening, and